let's be honest here. Most period dramas on Netflix are kinda generic. Same tired mansions, same fake accents, same boring love stories. But once in a while, Netflix actually gets it right. And I'm not talking about Bridgerton for once. Good acting, good writing, and enough backstabbing to make it worth your time. Here's a few underrated period dramas on Netflix that are definitely worth a watch. This one's set in 18th century Madrid, and it's about Clara Belmonte, a cook who develops agoraphobia after her father dies. She ends up working in the house of a widowed nobleman, and of course, they fall in love. It's 12 episodes, and honestly, it's way more than just a forbidden romance between classes. Every character, good or bad, has depth. You can see it in the way they talk, the way they act, all the little details. The writing and directing really let the whole cast shine, not just the leads. Visually, it's gorgeous. The cinematography, the costumes, the set design, all of it looks amazing. But fair warning, there's a lot of nudity and mature content, so it's definitely not one for the kids. This is a one-season series from Julian Fellowes, the same guy who created Downton Abbey. It's about the invention of football, or soccer, depending on where you're watching, and how it went from being a rich man's game to something for everyone. Set in the 1870s, it follows a working-class player and his upper-class rival who end up changing the game forever. But don't worry, even if you don't care about football, it's still worth checking out. It's more about the social divide than the sport itself. You can definitely tell it's from the Downton team. It's got that same vibe with the class tensions, just moved onto the football pitch. Great cast too, Edward Holcroft, Charlotte Hope, really solid performances. It's a little polished, maybe a bit too neat, almost Disney-fied, but it's still good fun. And yes, if you're into period-accurate beards, there are some seriously good ones here. Overall, it's a fast watch and worth your time if you're into historical dramas with a bit of heart. This one's based on Giuseppe Tomasi di Lampedusa's classic novel, and it's all about the crazy political changes that hit Sicily and the rest of Italy in the 19th century. But even with all that, it's still historical fiction at its core. Kim Rossi Stewart plays Prince Fabrizio, this top Sicilian aristocrat trying to hold his family together while Italy basically falls apart. Benedetta Porcaroli plays his daughter Concetta, who's got her own mess of family drama and a complicated relationship with her cousin. The supporting cast is strong, but heads up, Francesco Colella plays the main villain very over the top. It's almost cartoonish, but it's fun in its own way. Visually, the show is insane. The coastline, the towns, the mountains, Sicily's never looked better. The architecture alone makes it worth watching. The music's great too. Small nitpick, they shot the northern Italy scenes in Rome instead of Turin, where the real events happened. But to be fair, the Rome sets look good enough that you probably won't notice unless you're really into your history. The story sticks pretty close to the novel, and it does a solid job dealing with how family leaders try to hold things together in crazy times. It's tough to follow up an award-winning book and a classic film, but this series actually pulls it off. This one's set in Madrid during the 1880s. It's a period comedy about Elena Bionda, the most sought-after lady-in-waiting around. She's known for being super strict and proper, but all that gets tested when she takes a job with the Mencia family, looking after 3 sisters. If you're into shows like Bridgerton, you'll probably like this. Elena breaks the 4th wall right from the start, talking directly to you about what's coming and what's not coming. It's a nice touch that keeps the tone light and fun. The show's shot on location in actual Spanish mansions, and they didn't hold back on the sets. It's all over the top gorgeous. There aren't a ton of big ballroom scenes like Bridgerton, but the ones they have are packed with modernized ballroom dancing and classical covers of pop songs. Think hits from the 70s and 80s, just with a fancy twist. The humor's sharp and quick, with a lot of sarcastic back and forth between the different couples. It never gets too heavy, but there's enough intrigue and hidden secrets to keep you hooked. This is a 6-episode docudrama about the last emperor of Russia and how his reign collapsed into revolution. What's cool about it is how it mixes drama and documentary. You'll get acted out scenes and then real historians pop in to explain what's going on. And honestly, it works better than you'd think. It feels more like a drama with some documentary bits, not the other way around. It covers a lot, from Rasputin's creepy influence over the royal family to the final days of the Romanovs. Some people complain they spend too much time on Rasputin, but he was a big deal back then, so it makes sense. The show even touches on Anna Anderson, the woman who claimed to be the surviving Romanov daughter. And it adds a cool mystery element to the story. They also slip in real historical footage, which helps ground the whole thing without making it feel like school. This is a German series about Elizabeth, who ends up marrying Emperor Franz and gets thrown into all the drama and backstabbing of the Viennese court. If you're into shows like The Crown, Victoria, or The Great, you'll probably get hooked on this one pretty fast. Now, heads up, it's loosely based on real history. Like, very loosely. They definitely took a lot of liberties with the story. But honestly, that's not a deal breaker. The production is gorgeous. Amazing sets, incredible costumes, and the acting is solid across the board. I'd recommend watching it in German with subtitles. The dubbed version works, but hearing it in the original language hits differently. The subtitles are pretty smooth too, though you'll get the occasional modern slang like "okay" popping up, which can pull you out of it a bit. This one's a modern spin on British royal drama, focusing mainly on Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. It uses modern language, modern music, modern everything. At first, it's kind of jarring. You're watching Henry VIII scenes, but people are talking like it's Love Island. But if you stick with it, it actually starts working. You get some cool nuggets of history in there, like more context about how the Church of England came to be, and even random stuff like what card games people played back then. Sure, if you're a history purist, this probably isn't going to be your thing. But if you think of it more like gateway history, a way to pull younger viewers into this world, it makes a lot more sense. It's not dumbing things down, it's making them relatable. And honestly, once you stop fighting the style and just go with it, it's pretty entertaining. This one's a comedy mystery set in the 1920s, starring Olivia Colman and Jessie Buckley, which, honestly, is reason enough to check it out. The story's about a town where people start getting anonymous letters full of, let's just say, extremely creative insults. Rose, played by Buckley, gets blamed, but as the town's women dig into it, they realize there's more going on. Performance-wise, it's great. Buckley's a force of nature, just pure energy every time she's on screen. Olivia Colman is as good as you'd expect. She's got that nuance where she can be funny and serious at the same time. The downside? The tone is kinda all over the place. It can't really decide if it wants to be a light comedy or something more serious. Part of that's because they avoid digging into some of the actual history, like how Britain really treated minorities at the time. That gives the whole thing a weirdly sanitized, almost fantasy vibe. Still, if you can roll with the uneven tone, it's worth watching for the cast alone. And Anjana Vasan, who plays a supporting role, absolutely nails it even though her character's a little underwritten. Yeah, the title's a mouthful, but the movie's a lot more straightforward. It's a historical romance starring Lily James. She plays Juliet Ashton, a writer who's kinda adrift after World War II. She gets a letter from a guy on Guernsey, one of the Channel Islands, and she ends up traveling there to write about the locals and their secret book club that started during the German occupation. The movie is beautifully shot, classic British period drama vibes, and it's one of those stories that's simple, but done really well. Good pacing, solid script, and great performances across the board. What makes it even cooler is that Guernsey's history isn't something you hear a lot about, especially for American audiences. Learning about the German occupation of the island gives it a real-world edge that lifts it above your standard romance. Alias Grace is based on Margaret Atwood's novel, and it's a 6-part miniseries about Grace Marks, an Irish immigrant in 1800s Canada who gets convicted of murdering her employer. The show follows her as she tells her story to a psychiatrist, and it leaves you guessing the whole time. Is she guilty or not? If you've read the book, you'll know how layered and tricky the story is, and the series actually lives up to it. Margaret Atwood was involved in the production, and you can tell it doesn't dumb anything down. And even if you haven't read the novel, the series stands on its own.